September 7, 2014, from M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. It was the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. On the first possession of the game, Andy Dalton drives the Bengals down the field into field goal range, setting up a 49-yard kick by Mike Nugent, as the Bengals took the early lead 3-0 on the road. The next three drives resulted in punts, the third of which Adam Pac-Man Jones returned 45 yards to set up the Bengals with great field position. Cincinnati started the drive on the Baltimore 29 and reached the 4-yard line before their short drive stalled on the goal line, and they were forced to kick a 22-yard field goal as Mike Nugent hit a chip shot to give the Bengals a 6-0 lead. The Ravens went 3-and-out on their next possession, and the Bengals would grind it out to get all the way to the Baltimore 10-yard line. But then for the third time this game, they had to settle for a field goal, this time a 28-yarder from Nugent. And now the score was 9-0 Bengals. Baltimore's next drive stalled, and the Bengals would get the ball and drive back into field goal range, and Mike Nugent kicked his fourth field goal of the game to make it 12-0 with a 46-yarder. Then on the first play following the kickoff, Vontaze Burfict forced a fumble by Bernard Pierce, and 5 plays later, Mike Nugent kicked his fifth field goal of the game, this time from 38 yards out, and it was now 15-0 Bengals, and that would be it for the first half. Then in the second half, the Bengals looked to kick their sixth field goal of the game, but the 45-yard attempt was blocked by Miles. 2 plays later, though, Joe Flacco threw an interception. Lemur picked it off, and the Bengals, though, they failed to capitalize, and they were forced to punt. Flacco then made up for his mistake by driving the Ravens down the field, and Forsett ran 13 yards for the touchdown to put the Ravens' first points on the scoreboard, and the score was now 15-7 with just under 2.5 minutes left in the third. The Bengals then went 3-and-out, and the Ravens brought the third to a close with the ball. The Ravens would open the fourth marching into field goal range, and Justin Tucker drilled the 38-yarder to make it 15-10 as the Ravens now trailed by 5. The Ravens would then force the Bengals to punt on their next possession. Baltimore went 92 yards in 6 plays, eating up less than 3 minutes of game clock as they took the lead in this game 16-15 after a failed 2-point conversion attempt. But then, on just the second play of Cincinnati's next possession, Andy Dalton connected with A.J. Green for a 77-yard touchdown pass, and after the 2-point conversion was successful, the Bengals were now up 23-16. Baltimore then managed to get into the red zone on their next drive, but on 3rd and 4 from the 16, Joe Flacco was sacked by Gilberry, and then that brought up 4th and 9, and for the second consecutive play, Flacco was sacked by Gilberry, this time with an assist from Nelson, and this game came to a close moments later with the final score 23-16 Cincinnati. And in this game, Joe Flacco was 35 of 62 with 345 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. It's pretty rare that you'll see a quarterback throw for 345 yards and only average 5.6 yards per pass. Andy Dalton was 25 for 38, and he had 301 yards and 1 touchdown. Forsett had 70 yards off 11 carries for the Ravens, and he had a touchdown to boot. A.J. Green was the game's leading receiver with 131 yards, 6 receptions, and a touchdown. Steve Smith actually had 100 yards. He had 118 yards to be exact off of 7 receptions, and he also scored a touchdown as well. But Lemur was the leading tackler. He had 11 tackles. Nelson had 10 tackles. The Bengals racked up 3 sacks as opposed to 0 sacks for the Ravens. Smith was their leading tackler with 9 tackles. But this was a tight game. The Bengals kicked 5 field goals in the first half to take that lead, and that was too much for the Ravens to come back from. And at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, when it counted, Andy Dalton came up huge with that 77-yard pass to A.J. Green as the Bengals end up coming from behind after having that lead all game long, as the Ravens had rallied to take the lead by 1, but the Ravens lose at home, and the Bengals win by 7 points, 23-16.